Hi, this is Clinical Group D with the community class, and this week we completed our Pottawatomie County Windshield survey. With that, we went around some different boundaries. We went ahead and defined the boundaries, which was Pottawatomie County. It's located east of Oklahoma County and Cleveland County and west of Seminole County. With that, the population estimates to be around 72,592, with most of the population between the ages of 18 and 65 years of age. It's not a very diverse county, with about 75% of its population is white, and that was made very apparent when we were conducting our survey.
Regarding the infrastructure of Pottawatomie County, we saw a lot of small-town farmland areas and larger towns with downtown areas. In the larger towns, there is better availability of resources such as city crews who maintain the roads, trash and cycle services, and transportation. The smaller towns have a lot of dirt roads and farmland, which makes it harder to receive these services. One major infrastructure plus is that the I-40 runs through the county, which makes it easier to get to larger cities with more resources. Throughout our drive in the county, we saw many sidewalks, streetlights, and crosswalks. The majority of these safety features were around schools and on busy roads. In the larger cities, there were sidewalks throughout, but in the more rural areas, there was less sidewalks and streetlights, because there was no need for them. It seemed like safety features were where they needed to be.
I went to Earlsboro, Oklahoma, a town in eastern Pottawatomie County. While doing my windshield survey there, I noticed a lot of old buildings. Most of them were brick buildings, and they looked like they had been there a really long time. The front of the buildings were mostly boarded up with metal and wooden boards. Also in this town, I noticed there was not a lot of businesses to go get food at. There was a Dollar General on one side of town and a gas station on the outskirts of town, so this leaves people who live in Earlsboro, they have to travel to nearby towns such as Tecumseh, Seminole, or Shawnee to go to grocery stores and other places they need for necessities.
In Pottawatomie County, the town Asher has one school. Ellsboro has an elementary and a high school. McLeod has an elementary and a junior high and a high school combined, where Macomb has an elementary, a middle school, and a high school, and Shawnee has multiple elementary schools, a middle school, and high school.
We went and checked out some of the health services that are in Pottawatomie County, and starting with Shawnee, there's the SSM hospital and multiple urgent cares around the town. And then in Tecumseh, there's only one urgent care. And we also went to SSM Health in McLeod, and it's right across from the nursing home and the high school, and about a block from the elementary school. And we asked them how many patients they see on average a day, and they said about 50 patients, and that 1 to 2 of those patients each day come in for STD.
While we drove around Pottawatomie County, we noticed that there were a ton of churches around, most of which were Baptist or non-denominational, especially inside of Shawnee. But the entire county has 113 churches.
When looking at the types of housing around the Pottawatomie County, we looked at several different towns, drove around, and in McLeod, we saw a variety of houses with poor housing in the town area or suburb areas. In Pink and Bethel Acres, there were mobile homes on large pieces of land. In Macomb, there were primarily lower and middle class homes within the city limits. In the Shawnee area specifically, there are some apartment buildings, duplexes on the west side of the city, large homes on the eastern and western outskirts. There's some Native American housing on the south, southeast, and west side of Shawnee, and there are many empty and abandoned homes downtown. Recently, I heard from Lauren Craig, who is the Homeless Services of Shawnee coordinator, and she said that there are many homeless people who actually live in these buildings that are abandoned, or they'll live in tent camps outside of town. Many also live near the river or under bridges, near parks or in parks, and some stay in the Salvation Army building. In addition to looking at the types of homes in Pottawatomie County, we also observed whether the lawns were kept or unkept and whether the houses were in need of repair or not. In McLeod, for the most part, the homes were tidy and organized, except for those that were abandoned were not well kept. Those in Macomb, there was a sprinkling of some that were in need of repair, and some homes that were in good repair. Those were more in the central part of town, and then on the outskirts, there were the ones that were in need of repair. In the Shawnee area, very, very generally speaking, homes that are north of Independence Street are very well kept. They have nice lawns, not much garbage in the yards, and it's a newer part of town for the most part. Then in the southern area, south of Independence, it's not as well kept. Most yards are run down or they have garbage in the yards. The lawns are not trimmed. And of course, this is very generally speaking. There are some homes that defy the general. There are homes on the eastern and western outskirts of Shawnee, which I mentioned earlier, are nice and well kept, and that includes their lawns. What we observed the majority of Pottawatomie County people doing in their everyday activities, I'm going to outline by town or city. So with McLeod, we saw people walking in the park, going to Dollar General, and the cafe. In Macomb, whenever I spoke with the superintendent's secretary, it seemed like most of the activity was around the schools, so school events. There's not really a park available, so people have to go to the school in order to participate in activities, and the only place to really go in town would be Dollar General, so most people go outside of town to do things. In the Shawnee area, most parks remain vacant in the evening hours when people would normally be off work or out of school. There are some homeless people that are seen around parks. Some high activity parks include particularly Boy Scout Park, which is over in the southeast corner of Shawnee. And there is a high number of frequenters in the evening hours because they have a basketball court and they have a track with nice trees. In general, though, around Shawnee, most people congregate at stores or school sporting events and restaurants.
Regarding the general environment and kind of pollution, litter, as well as like the nature scenes of our community of Pottawatomie County, for the most part, it was consistent. The county does have quite a bit of farmland and greenery. However, whenever you look at areas by roads or that are more residential or have businesses, there's typically quite a bit of litter. I know that Shawnee Walmart in particular often has trash laying around as well as plastic bags kind of drifting. So the findings do vary depending on how rural you are, however, they are consistent throughout the county.
So during our survey, we looked at many different places in Pottawatomie County. What I was looking for was types of entertainment, and in the smaller towns like Asher, Earlsboro, and Macomb, there wasn't much to do besides what the school was going to have, or maybe a bar or two. But in the bigger areas like Shawnee has a bowling alley, a theater, a roller rink, multiple restaurants, OBU events, Shawnee High School events. But other than that, there wasn't much to do as places of entertainment for the people of the town. But for places of exercise, the smaller towns, they have gyms for older people, such as Asher, McLeod. They have gyms, but they also have short, like school sports for younger individuals from 7th grade to senior year of high school. The Shawnee, again, being the bigger town in the area, has mini gyms, has a YMCA, has some water parks. They also have an airport track, which is not the safest to go exercise on, but it is a form of exercise. And they also have more availability of sidewalks and parks to go play at, and just an overall better atmosphere to get exercise.
Fresh produce was something that seemed to be hard to come by in areas that were not the city of Shawnee. My group in particular went to Tecumseh. While there, we saw a Family Dollar, a Dollar General, and multiple gas stations, but the nearest produce seemed about 20 minutes away in the city of Shawnee. It's possible that there could be local farmers markets that are seasonal, but a consistent place for produce was not found in Tecumseh, and along with other rural areas, it seemed similar. Again, there might be seasonal farmers markets, but nothing that's going to be consistent for that family or not a far drive. As far as Shawnee goes, there are quite a bit of options for fresh produce. You have Walmart, Aldi, Homeland, Crow's Farmers Market downtown. So in the more urban areas of Pottawatomie County, you do have access, but as you go further out, we're finding most residents do end up driving to Shawnee.
The local newspaper for this county is the Shawnee News Star.
While most of the county was pretty rural and did not have much police presence, we noticed that in Shawnee and Asher specifically, there were quite a few police officers out and about while we were there.
So some of the extra things we found in Pottawatomie County, in the Bethel Acres and Pink area, the towns are so small that they really don't have anything in them at all other than farmland. The people in those towns need to go to Shawnee just to go to a restaurant or entertainment places such as movies or go bowling. And if they need to exercise, at a gym, that's where they would need to go to. In McLeod, specifically the availability of condoms, there were no condoms at grocery stores that were on the outskirts of the town. They were made available behind the counters at a gas station, but nobody would really want to ask somebody at the counter in front of everyone for them. And then at Dollar General, they had a brand, but it was an off-brand, and it didn't specifically say condoms on it, so it was very hard to identify them. And towns closer by, like Hera, Newalla, they had a bigger variety of condoms, but they were further from town, so nobody really wants to travel out of town just to go get that.